First things first.
Good morning, councillors, staff, media and members of the public gallery, and welcome. Due to COVID-19 restrictions regarding gatherings and the need to comply with social distancing measures, Council wishes to advise that there are limits to the number of attendees in the public gallery. Federation Council wishes to advise members of the public gallery that council meetings will be recorded and available after each meeting on council's website. All care will be taken to maintain the privacy of those in attendance. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded, and by remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event your image is broadcast. This includes any filming by television cameras if a tenancy is approved by the General Manager or Mayor. Thank you. And I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Bangarang people, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who now reside in this area. I extend that respect to elders, past and present, of the Bangarang nations. I now call for apologies. Apologies and applications for leave of absence by councillors.
Thanks, Mayor. I have an apology here and the recommendation from Councillor Whitechurch.
Thank you. Any further? If not, can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Of absence.
Okay, now call for any applications for leave of absence.
Thanks, Mayor. I have three here. I have yourself, Councillor Pat Burke, applying for leave of absence 19th of the 2nd, 2022 to the 26th of the 2nd, 2022 for annual leave, and noting the Mayor will be unavailable to attend Ramjo board meeting, which is on the 25th of February, so we'll be discussing that with the Deputy Mayor to see if he could attend that one on Council's behalf. One here from Councillor Law, the following leave of absence from the 5th of the 2nd to the 13th of the 2nd, so formalising that for annual leave. And one from Councillor Sean Whitechurch from the 4th of the 2nd, 2022 to the 18th of the 2nd, 2022, also for annual leave.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Item number 4, confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting held on 23rd of December 2021. There's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move those minutes, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors, in relation to any of those minutes? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the General Manager's report.
Sorry, we've got disclosure of interest.
I'm sorry.
5.
Yeah. You have a couple?
Yeah, I have two here, Mr. Mayor. One is from myself for report 9.3, the Energy Connect project update. So that report is in the Director of Development and Environmental Services area. I just can't see that showing up. Director Appleyard in the headings. Is it definitely 9.3?
Yeah, so it's notification of state and regional significant development.
Within that, is it?
Yep.
So that's that one. I have a property that's got a draft agreement which potentially may be able to sell credits to this development. So it's a potential one, and I'll be leaving the room when that report's discussed. Also, 9.5 is one lodged by Councillor Longley. That report is on the How Long Water infrastructure major upgrades proposed. Councillor Longley was recently in his own right subject to a development application that was refused because of the issues with How Long Water supply. So Councillor Longley will be leaving the room when 9.5 is on as well.
Thank
I don't have any others.
Could I have a mover, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? Not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. I'll move on to item 7.1. Is the General Manager's report. Australian Local Government Association ALGA National Conference 2022. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments in relation to that recommendation, councillors? Not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against?
Yes, I'm
Carried.
in favour.
Okay, 7.2, payment of superannuation contributions for councillors. Recommendation there, councillors. Would someone like to move that, please? Moved by councillor
Yeah.
Nichols and seconded by councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Fay.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just wondering, with the superannuation payments, does it have to be in a direct superannuation fund? Is it a local government association fund or a private one, or what's the details of where it would be paid into, or is that to be yet decided?
You nominate your own fund, don't you?
Thank you, councillor Fay, and I'll pass that on to our Director of Corporate. Joe, would you like?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not all the detail has been provided yet on how that superannuation system will work, so we will provide further information when that comes to hand.
Thank you.
Councillor Longley.
Just a question. Currently, we get a monthly piece of paper, I call it, from the council saying we've received X amount of dollars into our bank account. Are we going to have these split up so we can understand? My accountants get hold of them and would say,
How much travel?
how much travel, how much this, how much that, and we're going to have superannuation. So we're going to have a bit like a group certificate. Is there some reason why we can't get a group certificate?
Councillor Longley, I'll pass it over to Director Shannon, but superannuation has to be itemised separately anyway, by law.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Longley, for that question. So, group certificates or payment summaries are prepared for the payment of wage and salaries to individuals. Councillor fees are not considered wages and salaries, which is why in the past superannuation has never been paid on them, because they're not wages or salaries. So therefore, a payment summary is not what is provided to councillors. But perhaps there's the ability to provide you with an annual statement of what has been paid, and so that you're able to use that for taxation purposes or whatever you need that for with your accountant. So we can do a summary of payments for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Law.
On item 254B, payment of superannuation contributions for councillors, it says that a contribution to a superannuation account nominated by a councillor. So you nominate your own superannuation account and it'll be paid into there.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Any further comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Right.
Against? Carried. 7.3 is New South Wales State Government confirms Yarrawonga Mulwala Bridge alignment as the green route. Recommendation there. Would someone like to move that for me, please? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, 7.4 is the Energy Security and Affordability RAMJO subgroup. Recommendation to appoint councillor delegate. The recommendation is to employ one of our councillors into that subgroup. The previous councillor was Councillor Meagle, that subgroup. So, any feelings out there, councillors, for in relation to Councillor Fay? Thank you. We've got one nomination. Would you like? Do we need a backup for that position, or just in case Councillor Fay's not able?
There is a staff member also, so probably not.
Pretty right. Okay, if we're all happy with that, councillors, I'll move that. Did I get a move and second? I did.
Not
Moved
yet.
by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, now 7.5 Community Strategic Plan Review and Community Engagement Strategy 2022. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Can I have a mover, please, for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Fay, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments, councillors?
Might just make a comment for the word.
Yeah, if you'd like.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is just rather than slip straight through this report. This is an extremely important piece of work for council across the next several months, especially as we re-engage with the community on the way forward with our new community strategic plan and our delivery plan operational program. So just wanted to make, I know councillors are aware, but just to be to assure the community that we'll be working really hard on a number of different engagement channels to get out there and roll out with our surveys, and also really ask the community to check in on how they feel our progress is going on our 10-year plan 2018 to 2028, and really keen to see how, with a lot of the challenges that have presented over the last 2 or 3 years, making sure that we can continue as a council to adapt and adjust where we can, and continue to also work through our state and federal governments in relevant areas to make sure we can continue to achieve the long-term goals in that plan. So just wanted to make a big comment on that.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please?
Sorry, you've got that.
We've got a mover, haven't we?
Yep. We've got Frank Nichols.
Any questions or comments, council? I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for that report, Mr. General Manager. We'll now move on to 8.1, Director of Corporate and Community, Financial Performance Report as at the 31st of January 2022. There's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move it, please? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Black. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. Item 8.2, Quarterly Budget Review Statement, second quarter 2021-22. Recommendation there, councillors. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments? I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. 8.3, Future of the Australian Billy Cart Championships event. There's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that for me, please? Moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Hughes. Questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. 8.4, Councillor Misconduct Framework Consultation. Recommendation there. Moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. 8.5, Federation Disability Access and Inclusion Committee Terms of Reference. There's a recommendation there, councillors, moved by Councillor Fay and seconded by Councillor Hughes. Any questions or comments? Councillor Fay.
Yes, Mr Mayor, through you. I just had was reading through the Access Grant Funding Program report. Is that available somewhere? I just couldn't find it in there. It says on page 5 of the plan that there was an Access Grant Funding Program. You've done some research on that, or?
I'll move that one to Director Shannon, if that's okay.
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. I think we might be best to do that as a question with notice, and we'll provide a further report on that Access Grant Program.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Okay, 8.6, Draft Disability Access and Inclusion Action Plan 22 to 26. There's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that, please? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. 8.7, the minutes of Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, 10th of December 2021. A recommendation there, moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. 8.8, Public Interest Disclosures Policy and Procedure. Recommendation there, councillors, moved by Councillor Hughes and seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. 8.9, Councillor Induction and Professional Development. Recommendation there, councillors. Moved by Councillor Fay, seconded by Councillor Hughes. Any questions or comments? Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Will councillors who have not been present at any of these sessions have the opportunity to catch up on them in live streamed or recorded sessions, particularly the induction?
Thank you. Would you like to speak, Mr. Buck?
Thanks, Councillor Nichols. Yeah, the induction especially was mandatory. So whilst the Local Government Act doesn't have any provisions around what that actually means, but as a council we made that mandatory. So we will definitely be following up on anyone that's missed the induction training. And I think it's good to talk to this report just quickly as well, because I think historically there's been a range of different, attempts by the sector to formalise councillor training, and some councillors take it up, others don't. The LG New South Wales also put forward a proposal where there was an online type thing called PD in a box, which even our trainer the other day said it wasn't a great success in terms of how it was rolled out, or how it was taken up, I should say. The intent was good, but the system may not have been that good. So I think whilst it's definitely follow up on the ones that missed training, discussed as managed how we report on councillor training rather than just annually, which is a requirement in the annual report, whether we do quarterly updates on what we've offered, what's been accepted, and also individual councillor training plans. So councillors can bring forward they might have RPL in a number of different areas, but they also might have different specialties they want to go off into, and if council endorse that, that's quite okay as well. So it's something we are really keen to make sure we do well.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, after doing that induction with that lady for a couple of days, like, I actually bang up the question to her, what happens if we don't do it? And there's, what's a snack on the wrist, or, you know, there's no actually legal thing to say we have to do it, is there, Adrian? Or?
No, they've tried to bring that through, they haven't as yet. And yeah, I guess it's also a bit like when councillors, you know, if there's certain councillors absent at different times after a period of time, if council as a board don't approve a leave of absence after 3 in a row, they can be, well, they are expelled. So I guess training's a bit like that. There's a broad intent there that the public would expect councillors to take up training and continue to keep up with the pace of the changes across the sector. So, but yeah, it's been a bit of a too hard basket, I think, for the Office of Local Government to endorse that as a formal thing.
Especially
so the council could make its own policy.
With rural councils, like, we don't get paid a lot of money to go to all these things. Like, it's and, you know, we've got to go away from work to do these things, and it's it doesn't sort of stack up if the people in the city who get paid big remunerations to be a councillor in the city, but expected to go to all this stuff. It's a bit hard when you work in the country and you employ people and you've got to run businesses and try and be a councillor. I suppose, you know, I put your hand up to be a councillor, but you don't really think of all the work you've got to do it.
Yeah, and I think the demands on the time, so for the new councillors, the last council term, Director Shannon especially, was in our workshops in the afternoons after our council meetings, whilst there's always a lot of other reports put forward or topics for our broader council areas. There was also some quite good little 5-10 minute interactive videos, conflicts of interest and different things like gifts and benefits. So trying to ensure, and that's all genuine training, financial management. So if we can try and help council laws as well by making it the best use of your time while you've given up the whole day, we'll be looking to do that still as well in this term. So.
Thank you. No further questions? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if there's where do we log our professional development, and is there someone who'll be overseeing, giving us a bit of a, taking us through it?
Yeah, very good question. So we'll work through that in the workshop, and we'll work forward to council, just like a few other areas, like our notices of motion and things where we haven't really tailorised how we want to and how council want things to work, but we'll be coming forward with some ideas around individual training plans and signing off, bringing forward what you've already got. So,
thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, 8.10, delegation to the Mayor. There's a recommendation to the councillors. Mayor to include financial expenditure declaration of $1,000. Would someone like to move that, please? Moved by Councillor Longwing, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, thank you very much, Director Shannon. We'll now move on to the Director of EcoDev and development. Sorry, Susan.
Try
So
Matthews.
9.1, we'll start off with the building approval, complying and construction certificates approved. And there's a recommendation there, councillors. Would someone like to move that, please? Moved by councillor Law, seconded by councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors, in relation to any of those developments? If not, I shall put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. 9.2, development applications approved under delegated staff authority since December 2021 ordinary council meeting. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by councillor Kennedy, seconded by councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Kennedy.
After speaking with a few of our other councillors, we think we need more information on development applications. Like, I'd like to see on all this report is the ones when they've been lodged, and the ones that have been refused and reasons why. Like, I think needs to be. It's all right to have just the approved ones, but I think we need to go a step further and see when things have been lodged. You know, I get so many phone calls saying, how come this has taken so long? And it gives us a bit of an insight, the whole council's insight, not just the staff, the whole councillors as an insight to see where we are with DAs, because it's probably our biggest bugbear with the more complaints I get is probably from people about DAs, and we just need, I don't know if Susan, we can do a report on that, when we have lodged DAs and refused DAs and the reason why, then it gives us an insight why it's been refused too. Before, otherwise they can bring it to council and we've got to vote on it. So I think we just need a bit more information, and I'd like to see that, please.
Thank you, councillor Kennedy. Any further comments, councillor Longley?
Yes, I'll support that, those comments of councillor Kennedy. I'd like to see also, I don't know how you do it, but I think you mentioned in a previous meeting that the DAs were approved in around about the 30-day period. But I'm getting feedback that it's taking, once it's been lodged, it can take up to another 3 months before we actually, the builder gets the approval to go ahead, because of a series of, number of questions asked, kept asking, so it's a repeated effort. Instead of asking all the questions in one time, and then they keep going back, the questions are then answered, but then there's more to come. And those questions aren't being answered unless the builder is ringing up the council to get an answer. So there's no communication, and sometimes these, from the lodgement or date, are taking up to nearly 3 or 4 months.
Thank you, councillor Longley. Any further questions or comments, councillors? Councillor
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we used to do something similar, and I think I've corresponded with Adrian about it, and just have a report that there was average time for DAs, and sometimes we used to have like a stop the clock, and then the questions were asked, because usually stop the clock was we need more information back, and it was just a small table and just used to give an indication of how long your DAs took. But I think we talked to Adrian, there was something to discussion with the director, and see if that's something that we need or want in the reports.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fay, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, thanks. I spoke with our director yesterday about the issue around planning and building surveying. And I know council are aware of it, but I just wanted to raise a couple of issues with it all, because I see Greater Hume-shire have got an ad out or a media article about they're chasing 2 more senior planners. Good luck. I hope they find them. As for MJ, we're working on our gaps across the sector, but building surveying is critical, and planning, because and we can certainly take a lot on board and give some more information about where DAs are up to. But if it wasn't for a couple of contractors we've got going on at the moment as well, I don't know where we'd be at as well, because I know the director at Greater Hume put up there that it's just unsustainable what they've gone through the last 2 or 3 years in processing the DAs. And I was just looking even at our report 9.1, and we have our statistics of that they're in dollar value, so they're in millions of dollars. And I know when we report back to the department, we have DA numbers. I think the DA numbers is probably a more telling report, because it doesn't matter if it's a little car shed, a little garage or something, it can still have as many issues as a big factory. So the work involved, you said it's jumped up to 27 million across last year, and then this year we're at 6.6 million for half the year, so we're probably slowing back a bit, but all the previous couple of years of approvals are now heading into inspections. So there's a real conundrum out there, and I'm from that background, so I'm not trying to over exacerbate it, but I don't know where the future is for building, surveying and planning as council, because staff are going to burn out and leave. That's going to be the reality of it. The planning portal hasn't helped one iota, because they've sort of put into that system and then it goes back and forward. It almost looks like a fine when you get the notice of a more information request. So I don't think that has come through how government had intended that. I guess I appreciate where councils are up to, because I get a lot of questions and emails and phone calls as well about the DAs and communicating back, and our communicating staff, our admin staff can do that, and they do that, but it's the people need to hear from the planner or the building surveyor about what the issue is. But there's no short answers, because when I talked with Susan yesterday, there's a real issue ahead of all the councils, and we just got to keep working at it. We didn't have a few trainees start about 2 or 3 years ago who turned into terrific staff. We wouldn't be having anybody at all on our staff, because we've had a few retirements. We've got more retirements coming up, so it's critical. It's worse than what engineering used to be like. I think in the past, engineering was short, but thankfully we can see a few of those getting around. But our planners and building surveyors are in dire straits, I think, for shortage. Yeah.
Thank you. I've just got Councillor Nichols here.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support Councillor Kennedy's line of questioning, and certainly Councillor Longley's comments. Certainly in our line of business, in construction architecture, we find the benefits of a pre-app meeting amazing. My question to Director Appleyard is, are many people taking that opportunity to have a pre-app meeting with council to help answer those questions in the first place?
Thank you, Councillor Nichols, and thank you, Mr Mayor. And thank you, councillors, for your questions, because the staff are literally drowning in work at the moment. The portal has not helped. In regard to people having pre-lodgement meetings, since the portal became mandatory, we've had very few pre-lodgement meetings. We're finding that the applications are getting lodged on the portal, sometimes without any plans whatsoever, and we're having to reject them. The other issue that has occurred is we have the only point of contact through the portal is the applicant who lodges the application, which can be the owner, and then the builders are contacting us, and we're not legally meant to speak to them about it. We do to maintain the relationships, but it is causing huge frustration, not only internally but externally as well.
Thank you. I think that probably points to some public information around going for a pre-app meeting before you go onto the portal to fill your form in, perhaps, as an idea. We see the benefit of meeting first to discuss our questions, and then we put the application into the portal. I'm sure a lot of people don't know the benefits of having that meeting first.
Can I answer? Yes.
Yeah.
So we do encourage that, and a lot of the applications that we do reject, that's one of the reasons we say there's inadequate information and you need to meet with us to go through that. In terms of even being able to meet with people at the moment, we are so under-resourced. COVID has hit the department at the moment, and we don't even have anybody to answer the phone this week. So, we're in for a rough period. Sorry, councillors, you're probably going to get lots of complaints. We're doing our best to cover everything and try and get some strategic work done as well, which you will see from another report coming up is now in dire need. So, if you can find us some more planners and building surveyors, send them this way. We need them.
Thank you, thank you, Susan. Councillor Kennedy.
Just a couple of comments I've had is about the DCP as the thing saying it's knocking the back now. Is this actually a legal document or just a guide by the New South Wales government? Can we change the DCP, or is that, is it up to the councils to change it, or is it up to who actually does the changes there? There seems to be a lot of the things that I think, this doesn't confide to this DCP, and lot sizes, your building footprint's too big, or your square metres of the buildings are DCP, and that's it. And this one I had looked the other day, it was a double-storey house, and they classed the top storey, I thought it was just your footprint, but it's actually the floor area of the house, including your second storey. I can't see this as sense when you've got a 1,000 square metre block and the house was too big because the second storey was classed as being on the back of it, So that was just a question, where do we go from here with our DCP? Sorry to put you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. So this afternoon we have a workshop showing you the strategic model to get to that point.
Beautiful.
In the last 6 months, we've introduced a variation to the development control plan form that people can fill in to justify why we should be varying the development control plan to meet the requirements of the development. The DCP is 10 years old now for Corowa, and for Urana it's 13 years old. So yeah, they do need some attention. But as I said before in my last statement, resourcing is our biggest problem. In terms of consultants to assist us, we waited a year to get 2 consultants on board to help us. So another planner to help us with the day-to-day operations and a planner to help run the growth strategy. So the market is very tight. If anybody knows any school leavers as well that are interested in a career in planning or building surveying, they'll never be out of work.
Thank you, Director Appleyard, and thank you for answering and taking those questions on board, and also your input, councillors, to this statewide problem that we're only going to make it better if we do discuss it and try and work some of these issues out. It's interesting that in Sydney Metropolitan, to your comment, Councillor Kennedy, the second story hasn't been rateable. It's only the bottom story that's a rateable income, so they've always had that dilemma there too. Councillor Fay.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, and picking up on Director Appleyard's comments, does council promote traineeships around the LGA and that there might be a possibility for get people on or go into schools and, you know, give a bit of a job description type of thing or promote the career in local government? Because quite often people don't think of local government as jobs until they kind of get a bit older. I'm just wondering if we do any proactive...
Till they've got a degree and they come back.
Yeah, I can answer that one. Okay, so we when I first started at Federation, we did have a traineeship program which has seen Megan and Jack come through the ranks, and they're now both fully fledged full-time employees, and they've worked out wonderfully. And as Adrian said, if it wasn't for them, we would be going backwards at very fast rate of knots. That, unfortunately, due to budget constraints, has had to be stopped. I would like to see it introduced. We're working with the department and with PIA, Planning Institute of Australia. There's been a chapter opened up in the Murray Riverina to try and resolve this problem. If you have a look at ads at the moment, there's over 500 in New South Wales alone looking for planners. So, yeah, it's exacerbating situation, but I think the only way you're going to get people out into the regions is to grow your own.
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to add further comment to Councillor Fay's great recommendation. Corowa Business Chamber is currently putting together their Careers Expo, which will be held at TAFE. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. I'd like to see council involved in that to promote opportunities working with local government. My recommendation would be to get in contact with the Business Chamber and certainly step up to be a part of that exhibition coming up.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I shall put it. All in favour? Against, carried. Okay, 9.3, regional and state significant development applications lodged. There's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that?
Just wait 1 moment, please.
Oh, sorry.
With any conflict of interest.
Oh. Would you close the door, please, Mr. General Manager?
No, you don't.
Okay. Didn't want to rub that in a bit more. So we've got a regional and state significant development application lodged. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Moved by Councillor Law and seconded by Councillor Black. Any questions or comments, councillors? I think we probably should discuss it and drag it on a little bit. So the General Manager's out of the room. Leave him out of the room. And nothing. Anyone, no comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. Thank you.
I'll go and get him.
He's coming.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Right upstairs.
Thank you. 9.4 tender evaluation report on Corosario's redevelopment, site civil works. There's a recommendation there, councillors, moved by Councillor Fay, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I shall put it. All in favour? Against, carried. 9.5, how long water infrastructure major upgrades proposed. There's a long recommendation there for you, councillors. Would someone like to move, please? Moved by councillor Fahey, seconded by councillor Hughes. Questions or comments, councillors? Okay, we'll start councillor Fahey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, just a question through just another report from the questions that I've made, just with our resourcing for this. I see we're looking at loans and looking at using reserves. Have we looked at any special levies for this particular infrastructure? I know we've gone under the pump financially, but has that been a consideration that there might be a special water levy at how long to assist in getting this project up?
Okay, I might pass that one on to Director Shannon, if that's okay.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So there's a couple of elements that we need to consider with funding a project like this. The first is the financing of it. And so that's where we're looking at borrowings, whether we use borrowings or council's cash reserves in the water fund. So, and we will be presenting a report down the track on what those options are and a recommendation to you on how we proceed with that. So, and we have commenced conversations with TCOP about securing borrowings for that.
Yep. Thank you.
Then there's the funding side of it. So then someone has to pay for that. So then we look at grant funding, what opportunities there are there, and then who are the beneficiaries of it. And so that could go one of two ways when we look at the beneficiaries. One is that it is just the How Long community that makes the contribution to pay for those upgrade works over an extended period of time, or it's all Federation Council water consumers that pay for that upgrade. So that will also be subject to a future report to council once a lot of the design and planning work has been done and we better understand what the actual capital expenditure is more specifically and what the or who the beneficiaries are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Shannon's actually answered me. Like I said, I read through the report and it said it's going to cost 3.8 million or something to do it, and we've got 9 point something in the water fund, and I just can't see why that money's sitting in the bank getting 1% interest, and we're going to borrow money and get charged 3 or 4% interest. I can't see why wouldn't you use your own money to do the job. I don't know. I just look at it, that 9 million sitting there getting nothing. We might as well start using it somewhere along the line. That's what I'm sort of thinking, But yeah, that's just a comment. But yeah, we're going to put a report to us later on, so that's fine.
Thank you, councillor Ken. Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried. Okay, councillor Longley. Thank you. I'll move on to 10.1, the report on the progress works from the Director of Engineering. Mr. Carmichael, December 2021 and January 2022. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Moved by councillor Kennedy, seconded by councillor Black. Any questions or comments?
Yeah.
Councillor Kennedy.
Just Mr. Carmichael, just asked a couple of people asked the other day how are we going with the bike track from Moa to Yarrawonga. It's going to be need a street sweeper to keep it clean. I think by looking at it, I drive past there most days coming this way and put old sticks on it. But how we going there, Mr. Carmichael? Can you just a brief thing how it's going?
At the moment, we've got about 16 kilometres of, 42 or something, they're ready for sealing.
Yep.
The weather's just played havoc with that particular job. Your comment about needing somebody to sweep it every time probably goes back to people that think up projects and don't think forward on how they're going to be maintained, and I think that's going to be a real noose around council's neck for years to come, because every time I drive down there, there's either trees down, branches down, or the amount of rubbish that's going to be on that track is going to be horrendous to maintain. And it's not a job for a normal street sweeper, it's nearly a specialised bit of gear or a tractor or something. I don't know how we're going to maintain it. But
I did make a joke with the staff the other day, you take your own chainsaw.
Yeah, well, we've come up with a few ideas. We reckon we be on a bike and let them ride down and back each time they do an inspection and sweep it as they go or something. So yeah, I don't know. There's it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a noose around our neck, I think. But yeah, we've renegotiated with the gentleman or the company with about the bridge in the
in the lake and come up with an agreement there, so that should go forward in fairly early days, but it's just a matter of trying to, obviously the weather at the moment's helping, but we just need a prolonged period of dry weather to get on top of it again.
And would there have been storm rain damage before?
Well, it wasn't too bad, but it's just been that persistent this summer. We just haven't been able to. Every time you look like getting on there, it's in a narrow fine, and then the grass grew. We've had it sprayed about 3 times. It's just one of those things that, yeah, all sorts of little things.
No worries. Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Carmichael, thanks for the update on that. I've had a question from a member of the community about the bridge across Scaines Lane Drain and the removal of concrete that was put around the bridge. Apparently a composite plastic bridge was put in and concreted in, but the concrete's been jackhammered up again. I just needed to report back to that community member of what that was and why, if you know.
The concrete wasn't put into the right level. The contractor was told to remove it and put it back into the right level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Hughes.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask a question of Mr. Carmichael about Martin Street, where there's been some patching done along the near the gutters, and it's all bowed up with garbage trucks going along. Is that going to be attended to? A resident asking.
In the short term, the answer is probably no, because we haven't got the finance, but yeah, I'll take that on board, and that's something we look at during estimates and that type of thing. Any of those reconstruction jobs, we've done a few we did a couple in Mulwala this year. Garbage trucks and curb and gutter sometimes are not compatible. Especially if the roads have been added on to do a curb and gutter. Sometimes it's not built to the highest standard, and we do get that problem. Street sweepers are another problem. Street sweeper goes along, plucks a bit of aggregate out right against the curb, and the next thing you got water going in, then the whole thing moves. But yeah, they're just things we'll take on board when we're doing our estimates and forward planning, and if there's money, we will look at it, and if not, we'll just have to keep doing maintenance until we can get the money to do it.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? If not, I shall put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, 10.2 is a report on capital works program. There's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that for me? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments here, councillors? If not, I'll put it then. All in favour? Against? Carried. 10.3 is Howlong Street redevelopment carry forward money. Recommendation there. There's money's carried forward, so would someone like to move that? Moved by Councillor Kennedy and seconded by Councillor Fay. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Again, carried. And thank you very much for that report, Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you.
I'll now move back a track to the Merrill Minute, where I'd like to first of all acknowledge the Corridor storm, that major event, where we had 182 millimetres of rain in 4 hours. It was off the charts, and there was particular properties that were inundated in a certain area of Corridor. I'd like to thank our VRA, SES staff and volunteers, and also our federal and state member, Susan Lee and Justin Clancy, for making the time to investigate any opportunities to help those people and families out. Also to the Berrigan Shire Council, who jumped in and to assist us with clean-up, with street sweepers and staff to do that. But yeah, to the there's been a natural disaster declaration lodged, and several others were lodged previous to this particular event. But going back to thanking Susan Lee and Justin Clancy, that's the path you go down as far as hand in hand with the natural disasters. And our members have been great with those residents. They've helped them, like they're making sure their insurance is dealt with in a timely manner. And I sincerely feel sorry for those people, and it was very sad to go around those properties and see the damage. You just don't realise. You see on the face that you've got quite a nice new home, and then inside it's just been gutted and all their material belongings. And of course they've got to move, and their lives are up, or they're totally dismantled they could be 6 to 12 months. So going forward, anything that we can offer or help, any other help the council can give, we'd be more than willing to do what we can. And I might just ask Mr. Butler, would you like to make a comment?
Oh, just quickly, and there's probably some other councillors who may want to add some thoughts, or some of our directors, because it was a freak event, but certainly the staff reacted really quickly and really well, and we had meetings going forward really quickly, and the first comments from the staff were, how can we help? So we've done things like open up the tip a lot longer and different days, and free disposal for any flood affected items. But yeah, I missed the first visit right around on that previous Friday, but going around again last Friday with our state member and councillors and some staff again, you get the impression that it's going to be a long journey for those residents coming off COVID and things like that, and then to be dealt a blow like that from Mother Nature's not great. There's some really good support services in the town, like Amaranth, who have really come to the party, as they always do, but there's also comments that they are needing financial assistance. They didn't gear up or budget up for those sort of event either, but they're not going to ignore their social directions that they take as well. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the councillors are aware that we'll be working as staff. Steve's team have been terrific from day one, and we're getting a lot of feedback about the guys on the ground and the girls on the ground that can help, but just making sure that we continue to do that. We've got some strategic work already was underway to review the whole Cora, Mowala and Howlong flood plans for the towns, but that is a long journey, but it had already started, and so there's nothing like a major event like this to put stormwater at front and centre, because we talk about our frustrations, I guess, that developers have with, and particularly the last 2 or 3 years, separate to the issues around our infrastructure capability or lack of in some areas. We also have up the ante a lot more on what sort of plans and requirements we expect to see within DA, especially major stormwater generating or water, sewer, road impacts, and that does not go down well at all with developers. But you have something like this occur, and there's everything's up on the table for review about who approved this or why did that happen. So I just wanted to also mention that we saw a few months back in Albury when around Thaguna happened, and it was all fingers getting pointed everywhere. So I just wanted to make sure that the council are aware that our staff work really hard, and it's hard ground moving developers off certain views when they want to proceed naturally in a cost-effective manner. But the infrastructure is not designed for these events that are going to get worse and worse with climate change. So we need to also be aware that we're going to have to put a lot more work into our infrastructure planning. And I've heard the Rutherglen community the same. I've heard Trevor, the CEO of Indigo, talk about that same approach. The communities are designed for certain levels, but when you're looking at areas where drainage is an issue, I think it's going to be front and centre for a long time. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it's something that's right on our agenda.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Feel free, councillors, if anyone would like to make a comment. Other than that, would someone like to move that minute for me, please? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Fay. All in favour?
All right.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Questions with notice. Councillor Fay. We've got the first one. The first question with notice is what reserve funds are available for sewer water upgrades in the major centres in lieu of the continued refusal of house block subdivisions due to the lack of infrastructure? Councillor Fay, would you like to talk to that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, point number 2 to that is the issue that developers are not contributing enough, or is it that the treatment plants are at capacity? Thank you, Councillor Fay.
Yeah, no, I'd like to thank the staff for their response. Just trying to catch up to speed, and because it has been in our discussions, I want to make sure it's in the public realm. So I appreciate that it's been under the pump and I didn't cause it too much more drama. I suppose one of the things I'm looking at this, where the river towns might have infrastructure limitations, that there's a whole big shire out there that probably doesn't have limitations, and there are opportunities for development in other areas. And I think council's got an opportunity for possible council land sales or other development throughout the rest of the shire where the infrastructure is up to scratch. But at least now we're in the picture of why things haven't been happening, and it's pretty straightforward. So I think it's a good explanation, and it's in the public realm, so people are aware of what the issues are.
Thanks, councillor Fay. Councillor Fay, would, and number 3, would you think that we've probably covered that current facilities planned in the...
Yes.
Did you want to speak? Yep.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so number 5.
4.
4, yeah. Number 4 is under the sections 332 and 333 of the New South Wales Government Act 1993. The organisation structure may be redetermined under this part from time to time. The council must review and may redetermine the organisation structure within 12 months after any ordinary election of council. When will this be done? I think that one's self-explanatory. Would we like to take it on notice, or was
Oh, no, sorry, happy to talk if needed back on that one. But yeah, certainly the council over the creation of Federation Council has done extensive number of reviews and restructures, notwithstanding that I guess the most recent look at the structure was around a couple of years ago when the long-term financial plan was redone in a service-based way. So that sort of mapped and planned our services across the Shire, and that's sort of the approach we want to take then in terms of how we can deliver those services, whether that be staff, contractors, naturally a mix of both in some areas. So that's what we've got now, is a really good handle on where our services are up to, and then going through, as I mentioned earlier today, our community strategic plan review and the community looking at what the services are like and how that's achieving the vision or otherwise over the 10-year plan, looking at how we then structure up or look at our own staffing structure to meet those demands. So we're always, as executive especially, looking at our wages and our staffing structures. We naturally have had a fair bit of instability in the early days, but we have levelled out, and some of the work around our strategic planning that we know is a lot of work. We've been the benefit of having restructures that's created water and sewer managers and some of those areas that are really hard to fill. So in those areas we never got enough staff, as we'd mentioned, with our planning and building surveying, but in other areas we're working hard to keep our good staff. So we're hoping that over the next couple of months, as council consult with the community, that comes back through to workshops in terms of how that back aligns with our structure and of course our budget going forward. So but yeah, it was correct to bring the question up in terms of the new councils always have to, within 12 months, formally review the senior organisational structure, and the aim is to present that back in a combined manner with the rest of our documents over the next couple of months. So.
Thank you. Item 5, zero-based budgeting is a method of budgeting in which all expenses must be justified for each new period. The budget's then built around what is needed for the upcoming period. Regardless of whether each budget is higher or lower than previous one, does Federation Council practice zero budgeting, and how often? I might look over to Director Shannon, or you can take it on notice, whatever you...
The answers are in there.
Oh, you put the answers, sorry. Are you happy? Did you want to comment on that? Councillor Fay, are you happy with that one?
No, thanks, Mr. Med. Joe, I've given Joe enough extra work this last month, so it's just a matter of some of these questions I asked which I couldn't find on the website type of thing, and just getting up to speed to get a better position of council.
Oh, no, it's good. Question number 6. When is it envisaged to update the media policy and protocols? Social media policy. They both have references to the administrator, and after 4 years, I believe that reference should be removed. The response is there. Happy with that response, Councillor Fay?
Thank you.
And item number 7, has enough data been collected on the running cost of the Coral Aquatic Centre to realise expense and work out a lease arrangement? When is it envisaged that the Coral Aquatic Centre will be offered for lease? And there's a staff response there, unless anyone wants to add to that. Are you happy with that response, Councillor Fay?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I think when we did a tour of the pool, I think there's a report coming to council in April.
Yep.
I think it was April.
Yep.
And which will have all that information in it, so I'll be looking forward to it.
Excellent. Item, sorry,
Sorry, excuse me, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, the swimming pool opened in the April, So the 12-month period will finish in April,
Yep.
and then the report will be
Yep.
prepared. So it's more likely to be the May or June.
Yep, thank you.
And just for clarity, when is it envisaged that the Cora will be offered for a lease? I just noticed that we didn't clearly say that there's been no decision to go out to a lease or a contract. It was just do the 12 months and then come back and look at all the options of management going forward, including the staffing model that's currently in there. Yep.
Okay, number 8 is, what is the total number of full-time employees and casual employees currently employed by Federation Council? The response is there and looks fine. I don't think there's anything to add there. All good. Well, thank you very much for those, Councillor.
Black spots, number 9.
Oh, number 9, fit one. Oh, has Federation Council lobbied Telecommunications Agency and appropriate ministers in regard to the black spots for mobile coverage within the council area? For example, Federation Way between Cora and Daysdale. That is a beauty, and there's a lot more black spots to add to that one too, Councillor Fay.
Oh, yes, through you, Mr Mayor, we've had Miranda, we had 7 days offline, no network connection whatsoever, and they're experiencing all over the state, I believe, and they're talking about having a 5G rollout, but they can't even work 3 or 4G yet, so it makes it very difficult, especially like to get council papers, businesses, and even I rang Telstra and said, well, you know, I've got a problem with my phone, rang them on the landline, they said, I'll send you a text to get your identity. And I've got no network connection, you know, how can you send me a text? And they said, I'll send you an email. I said, what part of no network connection don't you understand? After 2 hours on the phone, they said, oh, there's an issue with the tower. I said, well, you know, blind Freddie could know that's happening. So it just seems to be a continuing thing that not only black spots now, we're getting areas that used to be good and they're getting worse. And it's not just this LGA, it's statewide, I think, and there's got to be some type of solution. And I think keep pushing on those local members and through Ramjo and their telecommunications strategies that to really push the point that if you can't fix what we've got now, how are you going to roll out this new 5G?
Yeah. And good motion for confidence. Councillor Longley?
Supporting that comments of Dave. How long, which is a lot closer to the centre of the universe than you guys, has the same issue. A lot of dropout.
Careful, Councillor.
5G is an absolute mess. You can't get comms, you know, when we have, meetings online. We have complained that many times over there. They keep sending people out. Nothing ever happens. It's going backwards at a fast rate of knots, and I can understand your frustration.
Councillor Law?
Yeah, I support both the members, both of the councillors' statements. Even in South Corowa, it's miserable. And that's very close to the centre of the universe. And so it's something that's got to be done. I had a friend who worked at Optus, and I was whinging to him one day about the service here, and he said, oh, look, I'm just getting that fixed for you. It should be right in a couple of days. I hadn't realised they were upgrading the tower. That was the last upgrade about 8 years ago, I think. I think we certainly need something done in the area.
Councillor Law, same, you run it, it's in the centre of the universe, and competition, but no, it's terrible, and I think it's got worse.
Yeah.
It's got worse, so we probably need to scribe up a motion the next council meeting and Alga.
I think, just don't add to the whinge fest, but the government, both state and federal, I'm not aware, they must have somewhere, but I'm not aware they've even got a strategic plan as to how it's going to roll out. So the Sturt Highway between Hay, Balranald, right up to Narandra, there's highways that have just never gotten better in 5-10 years. And so we've had our own planning of water and sewer and been more strategic. I'm not sure that there's even a plan to improve, so that's probably something we need to take through to Alga. I'm sure it'll come up at our state conference as well, because no one's even knowing what, they seem to be still ad hoc. I read Jerilderie just the other day might have got some funding, and they're really bad in there for their Zoom meetings. But it still seems to be the noise or the squeaky wheel rather than saying, well, this is part of the new upgrade or whatever it is.
And I think it's important to add to that, with the advancements in agricultural technology and the reliance on not only GPS but also having broadband to download data and upload information, a lot of new machinery is coming onto farms that can't be used as a consequence.
Just a comment, Mr Mayor, writing that comment of yours about writing a letter. I'd suggest, can I move a motion that we do formally write a letter to Telstra and the Minister for Communications, and complaining about our lack of service.
Yeah.
But it
That'll be fine. And
Just
so,
go to the minister,
That
wouldn't go to
motion.
Telstra, because Telstra's a,
What if we do a workup for March, Councillor Longley, to put with Alga, but separately out of the letters? I think it'll just give us time to,
Yeah.
we can do that, yep.
make sure we cover it all. Okay, so very, thank you, Councillor Fay, for those questions. And we've got a question with notice. Question 11.1 is abandoned shopping trolleys. So, the background, Councillor Nichols, would you like to make a comment in relation?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I have moved this to a notice with motion, Director Appleyard has answered my questions very well. I do know that there's a change in legislation coming that will implore supermarkets to collect their trolleys within a 3-hour gap or face a $330 fine. I do understand that there's a lack of resource or funding for resource for councils to be policing trolleys. I would like to propose that council consider Trolley Tracker, which is an application free of charge to councils that helps collate information about trolleys that are abandoned in the community. It's a community-run initiative, I suppose you'd say, in that you get on your phone, you report that there's a trolley in front of your house, the data comes into council, council then contact the supermarket and say, look, you've got a trolley at 26 pounds, can you go and get it? As I said, it's free to council, and they can also provide templates and educational materials for council to distribute to the community to help with the management of trolleys. My question with notice comes from the very real observation of seeing up to 25 trolleys abandoned on Sangha and Queen Street on any day. They are primarily Woolworths trolleys, hence my question with notice. And I have a feeling that it's as a consequence of coin return chains being taken off those trolleys, and therefore no incentive for the trolleys to be taken back to the supermarket. As I mentioned in the paper, there's a public safety risk. There's a risk to damage of property. There's also a risk of damage to council property, particularly behind Memorial Hall, where there are 2 car parks with trolleys that bank up against new glass windows and doors on the back of Memorial Hall. It's real. There are some images in this paper that I've shared, taken over a period of a month, where there are trolleys dumped all around town, trolleys that don't get moved. I do understand that it's council's responsibility to impound them, but that is a laborious task. It takes a lot of time and money. And I want to put the motion, which is coming, for us to engage with Woolworths to see how we can solve the problem before we start fining. Councillor Appleyard, did you want to add any comment to that?
Thank you, Councillor Nichols. The staff have been proactive and have spoken with the management at the local Woolworths branch regarding this issue. Like us, they're having trouble with staffing. So they're doing the best that they can at the moment. We're keeping an eye on it and we'll work with them. They are aware of the legislation changes that are pending, and they are aware that once that comes in, that we will be working with them in a more stringent manner, shall we say, to try and resolve the issues.
Thank you. Question, how do we bring into that conversation to put keychain locks back on? IGA have been working to upgrade all their trolleys so that they have keychain locks on them, and the evidence is clear that people take trolleys back, and if they do dump them, kids will take them back to get the $1. So if or the $2 even. So we have, I guess, a 2-tiered responsibility as a consequence of that coin return. How do we have or implore Woolworths to bring those keychains back in? I think Councillor Law mentioned to me earlier that Woolworths used to have keychains on them, but they bowed to community pressure to take them off, that was before my time.
Yeah, I think we'll need to speak with them to see whether that was a corporate decision that may have been made at a regional or national office. That'd be something we would have to discuss with them, but it's something that we can certainly ask them if they're willing to put it in place.
Mr Mayor, can I ask?
Councillor Longley, yes.
Ms Appleyard, I know you've had conversations with them, but I think probably the best way of approaching it is in writing, with a formal notice, and possibly even right to their head office as well, because that's where the decisions are made, not necessarily with the local manager. So if it's in writing, then we've got they've been told,
Yes.
and then we can start enforcing the issue.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Law?
I think a very important part of this discussion is some education for the community. Woolworths don't leave the trolleys out in the street. The people who take the trolleys to their car to unload leave them in the street. And until they start to take them back, maybe we need to take photos of people who leave the trolleys in the street. Try some shame and blame. It sounds funny, but I always take my trolley back. And if people haven't got an extra 3 minutes to take their trolley back to Safeway, well, they must have a miserable life. So I think some education, whether we put something in the newspaper, some education about please take your trolley back.
Yeah, and Councillor Law, I'm just thinking, look, serious problem, and we've got a motion before us that we can deal with that, and recommendations to speak to staff. I'm wondering whether they should be them. Well, as you said, Woolworths aren't doing it, but their clients are, and whether they should be the ones that are administering some of this community behaviour and newsletters. You know, like it's their business that people are cutting and leaving their trolleys around. I'm probably shifting to them rather than using our resources as such. I mean, we've got there's new legislation coming in. That's not far away, obviously.
I think it's as made, but it hasn't been formally adopted and enforced yet. So,
and that would give council a good position to enforce it when that comes in. But I'm just I'd like to know from you, Councillor Nichols. I'm thinking about putting that work back on that business that is creating the problem. That they should be doing a fair bit of work community. Rather than our staff.
Yeah.
And Mr Mayor, I will speak to that in that we're a local business owner, we have a business on the main street. The number of times I've called Woolworths and the phone's rung out, or I speak to a manager who says we don't have staff, pre-COVID and during COVID, it's simply not good enough. And we can see that there are trolleys collected once a day, usually at the end of the day, once both Queen and Sanger Street are full of trolleys. On the weekend, this poses a particular problem with people using the trolleys for a ride up and down Sanger Street. I've done it as a kid. They end up down at the bottom of Sanger Street, and we've seen recently with trolleys abandoned in Bangarang Park. They also pose a particular risk to waterways once they're thrown into rivers and culverts and so on for flooding. So the issue is critical. I do think that it's a Woolworth-centric issue. There are some opportunities for public education. I think on the back of this app that we can adopt with Trolley Tracker for some community information as a double-pronged approach.
Yeah, excellent. And I think the motion before, sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I think that maybe then we should ask Safeway to do some advertising about bringing the trolleys back, some education, whether they put signs up, please return your trolley or whatever. But it's, you know, I was a retailer in the main street and I've had several shopping trolleys through my windows with the kids having a little play around and a ride up the street. So I know the problem of it, but it's all about education.
And we'll have more cloud once this legislation comes in as well. So that would take me to the next item, which is 11.3's notice of motion. And I'll just run through the motion. The motion that council contact management at Woolworths Corridor as a matter of urgency to highlight and discuss the ongoing and increasing problem of abandoned Woolworths shopping trolleys in and around Corridor CBD. Specifically, that the purpose of the meeting be around a mitigation of the problem at the source, example, reinstatement of coin deposit locks, GPS tracking, car park barriers, and other proven owner-installed measures. Would you like to move that, please, Councillor Nichols?
Can I amend it slightly and add that council investigates signing up to Trolley Tracker? So whether that's a question with notice or not, or an amendment to this particular motion.
Added this point too.
Yeah, point two of the motion.
Yep. I'll just let Rochelle word that and we'll read that out before. Okay.
I've just got the second point is that council investigate signing up to Trolley Tracker.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, thank you. I'm happy to
move
that. Yep.
Can I have a second, please? I'll second it. Second, Councillor Whitley. All in further questions? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
A question, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Fay, sorry.
I understand the situation. I'm quite happy with the intent of the motion and all that, but kind of gets me sometimes where it's always council's issue. The private organisations, I'm quite happy to write them a letter and all that, but I don't think there should be any more onus on council's resources. It's a Corridor Business Group involved. If only one business is writing to Woolworths, maybe get them all together to write to them and write to the head office, not to the local manager.
That's where it should go. Yeah, agree.
I'm just aware that our resources are really tight, and I just hate that impost. And that's the problem. The community sees a problem, but they all walk past them every day. What's the problem walking past and you're going down that way, just dropping it back off and berating the manager or whatever? If not, take them home and hold them hostage if they're worth so much money. So I'm quite happy to support the motion, but it's just a comment. I'd like to say that as we say, we walk past homeless people every day, and it's an issue. We walk past trolleys every day, but we walk past, and everyone seems to put that impost on the local government, which state government loves to do to us all the time, and add extra jobs and issues, but never resources it. So that's the only thing
Yep, absolutely.
discuss. Thanks.
Okay, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried. Thank you very much. That moves us on to correspondence requiring council action for information. We only have one item there, that's Corridor Civic Bowls Club, the letter received from Corridor Civic Bowls. There's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Black. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, we just skipped over, sorry, there was a loose item here, report, which is 12.1, the Federation Council Local Traffic Committee, minutes of the meeting 23 November 21, held via Google Meet.
Yeah, and the recommendation is to adopt the minutes of that traffic meeting held on 23rd of November. Would someone like to move them? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Black. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
Councillor Whitechurch is not here to comment.
Sorry?
Councillor Whitechurch is not here to comment.
Right. Okay, carried. Thank you. Okay, now move on to 15.1 that is tender evaluation report.
We move to close.
We'll need someone to move this to close. Moved by Councillor Fane, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour? Against, carried.
Short break, all right.
Mr Mayor, sorry, could I just move back to